Interview with Elon Musk and members of his DOGE team. And in this segment, we're going to take a deeper dive into the roles of some key players here. Healthcare entrepreneur Brad Smith at the Health and Human Services Department, engineer Aram Magadassi as a software expert, Cloud Software Group CEO Tom Kraus at the Treasury Department, and Morgan Stanley banker Anthony Armstrong. All very important names. He is at the Office of Personnel Management.
Let's check back on this.
There's a lot of money sloshing out the door. We spend as a country about $3 billion a day in interest expense. It's probably the first thing that got me focused on this and thinking about how do we get to this place? How do we spend more on interest expense than we do on defense, for example? So there's a lot going out the door. But my focus actually while I've been here has been on the agency side and on the workforce side, and how is the federal workforce of 2.3 million civilians, how's it constituted, how does it function? There are 259 discrete departments in the federal government. One of the things we did was we did an ontology of the full federal government using AI and brute force to map out 16,000 boxes on the federal government org chart. And then it's how do we get this to be efficient? For example, at the federal government, one of the things we've learned is you've got 4 payroll processors in the federal government. So 2.3 million employees get paid. They get paid through 4 payroll processors. One is in the Department of Interior. One is in the Department of Agriculture. They actually do very good work at this team at the Agriculture Department. But it's at the Agriculture Department, and they serve 76 federal agencies from the Agriculture Department for payroll. Everything from the IRS to the Smithsonian gets paid through the Agriculture Department. So that just doesn't make any sense. There should be one. You can debate where it should go. You should get the efficiencies of pulling those together. You should get the information that comes from pulling those together. So that's what we're facing on the workforce front. And you made the comment about shooting from the hip, and I want to just talk about that for a moment.
It's just what critics say.
Yeah, it couldn't be further from the truth. So I want to talk about what we're doing with these restructuring plans. We literally go in, and we're doing this mostly at nights and over the weekends, with the secretaries of these agencies and their senior staff. And we're going line by line, in employee org charts, line by line from the bottom up, talking about every function. Is it duplicative? Yes. Okay. What are we going to do with these 40 communications officers? We don't need 40. How many do we need? How are we going to consolidate them? What's the right team to pull that together? And it is happening at the highest level, and it is line by line, box by box on these org charts.
With these secretaries?
Absolutely. The secretaries and their senior staff, and also, really importantly, senior career staff. And I've got to say, I think all of us have been, it's been an amazing experience. There are some very, very smart, hard-working people who are career civil servants, and they're involved in these conversations as well to build out these plans for what these organizations should look like.
Tom Kraus, working at Treasury, you are having access to the payment system, oversees all the outgoing payments. Essentially, those payments were going places we didn't know where they were going, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the case, Brett. We're serving 580 plus agencies. And up until very recently, effectively, they could say, make the payment, and Treasury just sent it out as fast as possible. No verification. And so what we're doing is what any household would do. But imagine you're a household, you have a bank account, everyone has an ATM card connected to that account, everyone has a checkbook connected to that account. It's not just your children, it's not just your parents, it's your in-laws, it's your extended family, and they all can go to the account and disperse funds. No questions asked, no justification, no verification. And so all we're trying to do is put in basic controls. And then the last thing is really on the accounting side of things. Today, when a bill is passed, a budget bill, or a continuing resolution as we have right now, that actually does set a budget. It doesn't set a budget for the whole government as a whole. It actually sets it by fund. And so if you think about it, there's actually 11,000 funds across these 580 plus agencies. But today, on a real-time basis, not even a near real-time basis, we cannot account for what's being dispersed by fund.
And the hope is to be able to turn that where you could see it.
Turn that so we can see it, and we're very close to producing that. And why is that important? Well, by law, these agencies at the fund level are not allowed to spend more than their budget. But if you don't have the information and you don't track it, how do you know?
And Arm, the technical side of moving these computers to new age, I mean, it's a challenge, right?
Absolutely. And one thing I'll say is that almost every longtime government employee that I've met is incredibly excited about taking a serious look at the fraud. They have seen it firsthand for many years and see this as kind of an opportunity to use technology to address $500 billion a year of fraud. I think that on the modernization side, it might actually surprise people how basic the improvements we're making are.
Yeah, this is really, like, we can't emphasize this enough. What I'm saying is, like, the things we're talking about are so basic that the federal government can't pass an audit. It doesn't know where the money's going. Like, so what we're talking about is just like being able to pass an audit. It will enable taxpayers to know where the money is going and know that their hard-earned tax dollars are being spent well.
But the biggest pot is either in Social Security or, I guess, Medicare and Medicaid, right?
Yeah, but I can speak to Medicare and Medicaid a little bit. We're 100% committed to protecting Medicare and Medicaid. But at the same time, the Government Accountability Office, GAO, has said there's $84 billion a year in improper payments. And so how does that happen? I'll just give you a couple of examples. So one, we're finding there's actually an article in the Wall Street Journal about this, that there's individuals who are getting paid, or the health plans are getting paid in 2 separate states for the same individual. So New York pays for somebody's Medicaid and Connecticut pays for somebody's Medicaid. And you say, how could that possibly happen? And the reason is they have individual data systems. They run their programs separately. The federal government kind of sort of collects the data, but does not put it together to identify those opportunities. So that's a really concrete example of we're paying twice when we don't need to be paying twice. Paying once won't affect anybody's health care, but it'll save us half the money.